Is your family tree a mystery? Are you fascinated by genealogy? Well, hip hip hooray, let's talk DNA with Julie.
The truth is in your genes.
In Cut Off Genes.
Welcome to Cut Off Genes, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA and elevates the voices of adoptees who are woefully misrepresented in the public narrative about adoption. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson, a domestic infant adoptee and NPE, as well as a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie. And I have with me today, actually, she has me with her because we are in Palm Springs, friend of the show, Betsy Haddon. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for agreeing to sit in with me today.
Anytime.
So, most of you, if you've been listening for a while, you will remember Betsy as my friend from high school, who is also a domestic infant adoptee. And I helped her find out her paternal line because she already knew who her biological mother was on before. Because what was you actually knew her name, right?
Yeah, I found
Okay,
her name. It was accidentally left on the birth records.
That's right. That's right. Wow, that was a big mistake on somebody's part.
Yeah, well, it wasn't her name, but it was just a last name. I don't think her first name was on there. So when they blacked out all of it, they forgot the last name. But I kind of knew it was white because of some people.
Yeah.
Anywho, so but they left the address. That's
Right.
what it was. They left the
right.
address.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And you did some very good detective work. And then since then, I have identified two men who could be your father, two brothers.
Right.
And we've not been able to narrow that down because neither of them had any acknowledged children. So we're waiting for possible, like, unacknowledged children to show up, but you never know,
Right. And they've passed away. So
yes,
both men.
Yes, both of those men have passed away. So it's actually I'm glad you're here today, or I'm here, I guess, to record this. It's been a busy week and I didn't even know if I was going to have time to record. But I figured since I was out here, we would just jump on and do it this way. And you can be my co-host for the day. Yippee!
We'll see how you feel by the end.
Oh yeah, we will. On TikTok this past week, I had a video that went viral, shockingly. That rarely happens. And it's always the ones that you least expect to go viral. Like you're not wearing any makeup and you're not trying to do anything except for impart some information. And I just had this wild hair and I just wanted to say it because to me, from my experience, because I'm so out there in adoptee land, we get a lot of pushback from people who don't understand or aren't trauma informed and don't understand things about adoption and what adoptees suffer or what their bodies go through. So I just went on and I quoted this, which is from a study that I have somewhere. Anyway, it says, and by the way, this is not the only one of these. They're everywhere. I said babies who are separated from their mothers immediately after birth are severely stressed due to elevated cortisol levels, causing irreversible neurological damage. That's because of the primitive reflex of sensing danger when a baby can't smell or feel their mother. Research shows that babies smelling their mother decreases cortisol and de-stresses instantly. After that, I said something about unless in a medical emergency, all babies should be kept with their mother immediately after birth for at least an hour, something like that. And I got a lot of blowback. What do you think about that statement, Betsy?
It's a tough one. And maybe, perhaps people are just taking it, it's in human nature to get on the defense mode. But, I was unable to hold both of my kids after birth. It was quite a bit. Both of my kids, it was quite a bit before I could see them. So there's that. And then my mother, I really remember her saying, with my brother and sister that back then you go into labor, you go into the hospital, they put you to sleep, and when you wake up, you have a baby.
Right.
So
right.
I don't think they turned
sometimes.
out too bad. I don't
Right.
think.
But
And
keep in mind that this was specifically, I had all the tags: adoptee talk, adoptees of TikTok, adoptee voices. This was about adoptees being removed immediately from their mother, never to see her again, which is different than going to the NICU and you're able to go to follow them to the NICU, or they have your colostrum. Or my son was swaddled in my clothes, and although I was very distressed because I was already out of the fog at that point, I already knew what had happened to me because I was alone for 8 weeks. That but it really stressed me out that he wasn't getting neither of us were getting that release of hormones that is so important.
Mhm.
And that to me is it's not about um it's not about NICU babies. If a baby is sick or if a baby needs medical attention, of course. And that is not to shame mothers who can't hold their babies because of medical reasons, because knowledge is power. And we do things, if you know this, I mean, doctors know this. In the NICU, we are encouraged to have as much contact with our baby and swaddle them in our clothes and give them our breast milk and be there as much as possible. So there are steps taken where, because they know how bad it is for the baby to not have that um, wash of oxytocin, that immediate birth thing. But when it comes to adoption, it's more, they would rather just take the baby immediately from the mother, never, and the baby never gets that. And a lot of times they send, like, the adoptive parents will be at the hospital and they go into the adoptive mother's arms. I'm sorry, that mother's a stranger, and that baby doesn't know that mother. That baby knows who her mother is or who their mother is. They know they know the sound of her voice. They know what she smells like. They know her gait. They have been with her. She is the normal person for them to go to in order to regulate their system. And for people like me, I have been dysregulated all of my life. And I believe that a lot of it is because of that, because I was separated for 8 weeks before I even went to my adoptive home. So for me, I think it was probably especially bad. And maybe that's why I'm especially dysregulated. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I think everybody's different, Jules. I really do. Everybody's different. It's not going to be the same for everybody. That to me, and maybe I feel this because, my situation, and I know other people that, kind of have had the same childhood that I've had.
Mhm.
So, it's all different situations. I was adopted and taken home 2 days after I was born.
Right.
So I was born on the 29th of December and I was taken home on New Year's Eve. New
Hmm.
Year's Eve or New Year's Day, one of the two. I can't remember now. It's not that big a significance to me. So, and I have never felt disconnected from my family. So,
Right.
my parents are my parents. They have
Hmm.
always been my parents,
Hmm.
even after I found my biological maternal side,
Hmm.
and even after I met her. My mother is my mother.
Of course.
So, um, so I've
Right.
never had that disconnect, except, the only time would have been when I found her and she didn't want to meet me. And I felt a really sense of rejection there. And I
Well,
don't
of
know
course you
why.
did. And
I,
that's what that yeah, that's interesting to me because of course you did, but you were surprised by it,
yeah,
whereas a lot of us expect it.
yeah, I was surprised by it, because a friend of mine who talked to her originally, and she didn't want to meet me. She gave me the information because I purely went to find her because of medical,
Hmm.
purely because of medical. It's not because I've had this long lost thing that I've been looking for forever.
It's so
That
funny that
hasn't,
we are so different in that respect.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was purely medical and curiosity.
Hmm.
It's a need to know basis with me, and I always need to know.
Hmm. Mhm.
When I was
And there's
younger,
nothing wrong with that. You have a right to know.
my teen years, I really started to get more curious. I was younger and going through puberty and everything, and the old booby woobies didn't come in. I was late with them. And so, I wondered. That was my big wonder. That was my first curiosity was, you know, does she have breasts? Because I don't have breasts,
That's
and
that's
little did I
weird.
know that they
And
were going to
that
make
stuff
it.
never occurred to me.
Yeah. And little did I know, they would make their appearance just a little late in life when
And
they,
then some.
yeah, right.
Same.
So,
Um, okay, so
but it was purely, honestly, I could
yes,
say
yes,
honestly, it was for medical because I've had a
yes,
couple of cancer scares.
sure. And I respect that and I understand that. Would you, when you hear me talking about this stuff, does that make you want to say, stop talking for me? We're not all traumatized.
Um, no, you know me, I'm not that way. I I don't think everybody's traumatized. I only honestly don't.
Okay.
You know,
Okay,
I
let's put it another way. We are all traumatized. We don't all manifest the trauma. It doesn't always come out as trauma. The fact that you were born and taken from your mother was trauma. It
so
was, Betsy.
are you going to say trauma is my brother and sister and they're manifesting it too? Because they were taken from my mom and she didn't see him, for however long they did it back then.
Yeah, they saw her, but they saw her a few hours later. I'm talking about for life. In other words, if you never had that release of oxytocin for hours and hours and hours and days and weeks and months and years, it could and often does negatively affect you physiologically.
Mhm.
It affects your central nervous system. It's a simple scientific fact, Betsy. But
Well,
why? So why do you? So just the fact that I'm saying so. This is when we talk about um, adoptees who are in the fog and adoptees who are out of the fog. And now I need for you to know that the fog in the fog is not a slur. It's an acronym, and it's talking about some of us manifest our trauma later in life. It kind of comes like crashing down, and that is coming out of the fog. And by saying fog, we don't mean you're in a fog, you're not paying attention. That is not what that means at all. In fact, I have no desire to drag anybody out of the fog. So let me tell you what the fog is. Because I've talked about this before, but I want to restate it because a lot of people think that it's a slur. And if they hear that we're telling them, oh, because you're in the fog, that's not they think that we are attacking them and we're not. So fog is an acronym. It stands for fear, obligation, guilt. You with me?
yes.
Okay. So fear. And this is the way it was described to me. And this is and you can use those words however they apply to you if they apply to you. And they do to me. Fear. I had a lot of fear as a child. I had fear when I was born. Where is my mother? Fear that she's not coming back. Fear because I have a cortisol bath in my body, and so I'm in fight or flight. I have fear of everything. I don't feel safe. Fear that my parents are going to send me back. Fear that I don't know who I am, and aren't I supposed to know who I am? Okay.
Hmm.
Obligation is your the obligation many adoptees feel to be who their parents want them to be. Obligation to be a good little adoptee so that they don't send you back because somebody has already sent you away because they weren't happy with you in your child mind. Um, Obligation to make your parents feel comfortable with you being a part of their family and not wanting to know more about yourself, thus making them feel like they're not good parents. You want them to feel safe. And so you play a part like that you fit into the family, even if you don't. I know you did. I did not. Guilt. Guilt when you start thinking about who am I? Where did I come from? Guilt, thinking about looking for your family, guilt from other people telling you, aren't you are so lucky you were saved. You are so lucky you're adopted. Don't you feel like you are the luckiest person in the world? Why would you want to find your biological family? Guilt for having feelings to where you won't be accepted, or to where, once again, that makes you a bad adoptee. How
Okay.
does that hit you?
Well, I didn't experience any of that.
Okay.
So, that's the whole thing, is that I haven't gone through that.
Right.
I really, really have not. I can
Right. And I believe
honestly
you.
say that. Well,
And
yeah, because we've talked about this
yes.
over the years. But,
Yes.
it was that brief moment. Well, it wasn't a brief moment. I was kind of down for a
Yes.
couple of days, but
No, it
then
was
I came,
traumatizing for you, Betsy, but you have a different makeup.
yeah,
And
and
that was
then,
still, but I believe your trauma has not manifested, and I don't think it will, and I don't want it to. But the fact is, just scientifically, your body suffered trauma.
yeah, well, birth itself is trauma for a baby, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
No, it's not. Well, birth is trauma if if it does not come to fruition where you go to the person who was carrying you. The trauma part is when you come out and she's not there and she's all you
So,
knew.
so yeah, I never experienced it. So,
Right. So, what do you think that other adoptees are justified in coming on to uh adoptee spaces, and when we're talking about this stuff and telling us to be quiet, adoption is beautiful because they don't have any trauma?
no, I mean, everybody's different. Everybody's going to experience something different. Everybody's going to have different ideas.
Right.
It's,
So why do you think that people are so defensive and will come and like argue with us about it?
well,
I mean,
be,
what is it? What difference does it make to them?
I think for some people, they feel that it's attacking. To me, it's just, it's okay. That's what that person believes. So it doesn't upset me one way or another. I think there's a lot of people that may feel that they're being attacked by it.
How so?
Well, it's pretty blunt and out there. It's factual
Right.
on how it's presented, and perhaps that's why, and they don't want to think of it any other way. I don't
Right,
know.
because what the way the narrative that they've always been comfortable with is being challenged.
Right, right.
Right.
So, and it's hard, I think, also because I mean, it's pretty factual. It's just cut and dry. So,
Right. And it's a way to educate. It's just something to know. We need to know if somebody is ill, we need to know why they're ill.
right, right,
If for me, the main reason that I do it is for potential adoptive parents to be trauma informed, to know what to expect with their children. If they're, the majority, I've said this before and I'll say it again, adoptees are 4 times more likely than kept people to commit suicide. That's a statistical fact. Adoptees are 6 times more likely to be abused or murdered in their home. And what would is well, there's of course the serial killer thing where an abnormally large percentage compared to adoptees in America are that are serial killers are adopted as well.
hmm
These
So I
are
think
all this is all data.
yeah, but well, I think that's a very good advocation then, to educate for those for the future,
Yes, that's the
right?
point. That's my
Because
point.
there isn't, maybe people are just taking this so wrong and taking it to heart that what they did was wrong, or how they were handled is wrong, or I don't know, but I think it's a good advocation for the future. And maybe that's the problem, that maybe
Well,
that's how it needs to be delivered instead of the other way. I don't know. And
just
then there's a lot of
stating
people that are just too sensitive.
yes, just I mean, so you think that just stating a fact is too hard for people to hear?
I think so. And sometimes
Okay.
I'm going to be honest, sometimes it comes across harsh.
Hmm.
So I think that that is hard for people to hear, and that
But don't you want to? And I will say, what happens is like some people will really come at me and just keep, and then they'll say that I'm awful for making them feel bad. Um, and those are the ones that I keep like trying to talk to explain that I'm trying to, I'm not attacking them for adopting. I'm trying to make sure that they are trauma informed so that if and when their children manifest some kind of trauma, they know why and they can get help accordingly.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. People are like, my kids are just fine. My kids are happy. Well, everybody would have said that about me too. I seemed fine to you in high school, right?
Is that a trick question?
I knew you were going to say that. No, I seemed like a pretty happy kid, right?
For the most part.
Oh, oh, that's
No.
interesting. What does that
Just
mean? Okay.
nothing. It meant nothing. I'm just
Okay.
going back to the time that you crashed my car into your apartment.
Okay, let's not go there, please. That has nothing to do with my trauma. Maybe yours. I don't know.
That could be it.
Yes, that could be. That could be. But my point is, I mean, I didn't come out of the fog until well into my 30s, and actually that was just the beginning. I mean, obviously, you know I came out completely when I was sued
Well,
by my brother because and lost because they said that I was an ungrateful
right.
adoptee. So I think that's pretty much what made me need to change the public narrative about adoption and what it's like to be adopted.
Well, I think it triggered way before that for you.
Well, it did, but that was the icing on the cake. That was the
Hmm.
jumping off point, certainly for me,
Hmm.
to where I was like, this is crazy that my life has been forever uh altered, negatively affected because of this BS belief that I'm a bad person because I wanted to know my own history. So I just thought I wanted to talk to you about it because we are good friends and we obviously have different experiences, but I also wanted to honestly talk with you about how you feel when I talk about my experience.
Well,
No response.
well, I'm looking for what you're fishing here
No,
for.
I'm not fishing for anything. I was actually trying to wrap up the conversation.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So
You
you're
know,
not mad at me, or are you?
no, no. I don't think that you are going to be at peace until all of this goes away with your brother.
Of course. Right.
So,
But my way of handling that is by trying to change a system that I think is wrong.
yeah, I mean, you can advocate for that.
Right, but it's
And
also if people refuse to listen to us and call us awful, it's exhausting as well. And advocating like makes you want to crawl into a closet sometimes because you feel like you don't are not getting through to people. Oh, I was leading up to there was one woman that actually came back the next day after we had a series of conversations and said, I sincerely apologize for the things that I said to you. I've been doing more reading and I now want to, and it was for her grandson. I now feel better informed, and going forward, I will pay more attention to what adoptees are saying. So that's one tiny win.
but I think education is the key to get the education out there. And how do you get the education out there? The National Adoption Association. They claim to be,
Yeah,
education for
right. We're
adoption.
not going to, right. But they don't get any of their data from actual adoptees. They get it from adoptive parents.
So,
So that's not, in fact, anything that is pro adoption, that is like trying to, uh, by the way, the multi-billion-dollar for profit adoption industry, the UN states that adoption is human trafficking when money is exchanged. because that is the definition of human trafficking. I don't think anybody should be buying humans or selling humans. And I definitely don't think anybody should be profiting from it. And that is what the adoption industry does.
I
So
would
I
have
have
to
a,
agree. You're
yes,
talking
right.
45,000 to
And
100,000.
that's one of the arguments against Roe versus Wade was that we will have less domestic infant supply if we don't ban abortion. That was actually in the opinion.
Mm,
So we are commodities.
okay.
I mean,
So,
there's always going to be money exchanged, especially in this day and age, because
mhm.
that's the society we live in. It's about capitalism. And if we can commodify humans legally, then somebody's going to. So I'm going to stop talking about that now and talk about some lighter stuff. Okay.
Like what?
Like, I am on a Facebook group called Intriguing Death Certificates. And people will post death certificates that are intriguing. It's all in the name, really.
Are you that bored?
Okay.
You're pretty busy to go.
I deal in death certificates. I'm a genealogist.
Right.
So sometimes people will okay, a lot of the times people will post a death certificate because they can't read it properly. The handwriting is too hard to read. And so they ask people to help decipher it for them. And here's one that is crazy. This is from 1883. Somebody was born in 1883 and died at 42 years, 3 months, and 19 days. She was a housewife and she is from Alabama. And there's always a medical part to the death certificate that talks about what they died from and then the secondary, what also led to it. But in the cause of death, it says menopause.
No.
That must have been a really bad hot flash, huh?
Wow.
Yeah. And then the contributory is pulmonary tuberculosis. I've got a feeling that maybe that was the primary reason. But why would they list menopause as the primary reason?
I don't know.
Isn't that crazy?
But it's tuberculosis, you
Yeah,
think is the main
pulmonary. Yeah, it's the more likely
pulmonary? Hmm.
pulmonary
Well, maybe they're
tuberculosis.
saying that. I don't know.
Or maybe whoever filled this out wasn't paying attention. But clearly there's like 4 lines for the primary and then 1 line for the contributory. And on the 4 lines, it just says menopause.
Why would menopause contribute to that?
Well, that's why it's intriguing.
Huh.
Yeah. I have a large collection of death certificates from my family tree. I have spent a lot of money over the years.
To get death certificates?
Yep. Because sometimes that's the only way you can get it. That sometimes with death certificates, that's the only way that you can know how many children somebody had, or if somebody was somebody's father, because they'll
Oh, I didn't
list.
think of that. A number
Yeah,
of
they will
children, because
list.
that's a way for you to
Yeah.
go looking for. Oh,
Mhm. Yeah, I'm sure I bought a few in your case.
no.
Yeah. All right. If you're enjoying Cut Off Jeans, please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, it is story time. You will all remember Crystal Park from part 1 of our conversation from last week. She's a Canadian adoptee and the subject of the film Because She's Adopted. Here is the second part of our conversation. Enjoy.
Reunion is just so hard. It's just hard. It's hard for everyone. It's not just hard for the adoptee. It's hard for the biological parent. It's hard for the adopted parent, I'm sure. It is tough waters to navigate that we just don't have an instruction manual for.
Right.
And, you know, I as I've grown, I really, really try not to function out of my wounding anymore. And I know the difference now. I know when I am and when I'm not.
Yes.
And I think that's something that has come with time, because I think before I would just like totally function out of my trauma and my wounding. I had no awareness that was what I was doing. I was always just reacting to life instead of responding. And so today I feel like I know the difference between the two, but not everybody does.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
really evolved. And I have come to realize in the last few years that everything about me is because of my unrecognized trauma, and the way that I present and the way I respond to people has always been, once I got to a place where I couldn't mask anymore,
yeah.
I've kind of had to peel back that onion. But yeah, I agree. That's really great that you can do that. I should probably be working on that a little more
I
myself.
mean, I don't do it perfectly all the time. Ask my kids and my husband, but certainly when I'm yeah, I try to. I
Mm-hmm.
try to.
Mm-hmm.
You said when you can't mask anymore. That is such a good point because I do recall there being a time where I didn't even have the ability to mask anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And
Me too.
it was
Yeah.
so frightening because I couldn't trust myself.
Mm-hmm.
I really felt this way, especially after my mom passed away, my
Mm-hmm.
adoptive mom. I just felt like I didn't know how I was going to react in the world. And I was so raw. And my circle got really, really small because I just could only surround myself with people that I knew truly, truly loved me
Yeah.
and had the grace for me
Mm-hmm.
if I did make a mistake.
So you were what, 16 when you met your mother for the first
I
time?
was
Oh,
17.
17. Okay,
17,
that's really
yeah.
young.
It was young.
Yes. I met mine when I was 21. And I think of that a lot as a blessing
Mm.
because I was still so in the fog, and I just wanted everybody to be okay with my existence. And so
Oh, wow.
everything that I knew, everything that she told me, every revelation was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's okay, fine.
Yeah.
Whereas, 20, 25 years down the line, I'm like, that is so messed up. You know what I mean? And I know that I
Yeah.
don't hold I have to honor her choices and why I think one of the hardest things about this is not about me, but I'll probably cut it out, but I want to explain to you.
No, please,
Um
please.
one of the revelations that I've had in the past few years was that, most adoptees, and the conversation most adoptees have is, we were loved. We were so loved, but they absolutely didn't have any support to keep us. And so they did what they were told to do, what society was telling them to do, and some of them didn't have a choice. When in actuality, my mother absolutely had a choice, and she chose a man over her newborn child.
Mm.
And I'm going to cut this out. But she, you know, and even back then, I knew that she had gotten married 3 months after she had me, and she'd started dating when she was pregnant with me.
Mm.
But the story was always, well, she said then that, yeah, just didn't know if he could, and had I been 20 years older when she said that, I would have been like, well, then why would you choose him if, he
Yeah.
wouldn't accept all of you? But of course, I was like, cool. Okay, that's great. But in actuality, I a couple years ago, I was looking at my intake papers for the Methodist Babies Home, which is where I was for the first 2 months of my life,
Mm.
which has messed with me a lot, especially after having my kids, that I was in an orphanage for 2 months
Yeah.
before my parents adopted me. And looking at the paperwork, so they knew she was getting married. It said it on the papers, mother to Mary, with like an ellipsis after it. So, and when I asked her about that, she's like, no. And I weren't even engaged at that point. I said, well, on these papers, it says that. So I think they were thinking that you might come back, which is why I was there for 2 months. And she said, I didn't know that. I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
Mm.
Which, I have to take her at her word, but it sounds like there was some miscommunication all around back then, huh?
Yeah. And Yeah, I relate to that because my two aunts, a cousin of mine, that all were there when my birth mother was pregnant with me and then relinquished me. They were even there in the birthing room when she
Mm-hmm.
gave birth to me.
Wow.
Um, I have papers from social workers that quoted her. Um, and and then, but her version is different, which is totally normal and understandable
Mm-hmm.
and same, like I'll take her at her word, but I also, maybe both can be true, or there's somewhere the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But there's still, even though I have gotten so many answers, there's still so many unanswered things. Like me, I am an honest person to a fault. Its truth is very important to
Me
me.
too.
And I can tell if someone's lying to me. Like I just know. I
Mhm.
just know. So there's things that I'll never fully know the truth to, and I've come to accept that, but there's some days that it bothers me still.
Of
There's
course it
some
does.
days that it bothers me.
Of
So,
course it does. Because it's your story.
yeah.
And it's always going to be as much work that I have done and the things that I have uncovered and the places that I've gone. I've accomplished so much just to feel connected to the earth, you know. Um, but because my biological father was deceased by the time I finally found him, he died while I was looking for the other guy.
Wow.
Um, I'll never know the story because my mother doesn't remember him. Oh, but I'm probably never gonna know what it was, how they met, what this
Yeah.
encounter was, and why.
Yeah.
And that kind of drives me a little bit crazy,
Our stories are probably more similar
really.
than yeah.
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 Okay. Did your mom tell you the first guy that you thought was your father did she name him?
Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. She didn't name him
Birth certificate?
on my birth certificate though.
Mine
Yeah.
either.
I think that's the thing. People just don't comprehend what it is to live like that,
Hmm.
with not knowing and not having the means to know. And
And not even kind of being willing to try.
yeah.
I think and the thing that I say the most, and that usually shuts people down, if they say to me, why is this important to you? Why do you, I mean, DNA doesn't mean anything. Why is this important to you? The only thing I can say to them is, do you know both of your parents?
Hmm.
And they have no response to that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can't judge that of which you have no understanding.
Totally.
But
Yeah.
if you want to tell me it wouldn't bother you, knowing who the people were from whence you came, then I can't help you with that. You
Yeah.
know, you
Yeah.
know.
I know. I always say that's
Mm.
that's really good coming from somebody who knows who both their parents are and know, what nationality they are and know their birth story and know,
Right.
and yeah, like you just yeah, it's just that tone deafness, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they just
Mm-hmm.
don't get it until they do. And this is the thing, what I've noticed with the film is that so many people that, are not a part of like they're not an adoptee, they're not an adopted parent, they're not a birth parent,
Mm-hmm.
that they are the ones that say to me, I had no idea.
Yep.
Thank you
Mm-hmm.
for enlightening me.
And that's
And
why we have to keep
we
talking.
have to. And even to see my brother Mike, who is in the film, a lot of it,
Yes.
his eyes were so opened, and to watch that happen as the day went on when we did his interview
Mm.
was one of the greatest gifts that I could have ever been given.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah.
That's really amazing.
Yeah, it was. It was really great. You were talking about that you went back to England.
Hmm.
And so in 2022, my husband and I went back to Italy. And
Oh.
so you'll appreciate this because of the genealogy stuff and the
Hmm.
DNA stuff. When I first did Ancestry, I was connected with this uh, family member, Dino, and then his last name rhymed with Dino. So I won't say anymore because I don't want to I don't want to give his like full name out into the world. But
Wait a
it was
minute. Was it Dino Andino?
no.
I actually know somebody named Dino Andino. So yeah. I'm like, oh my God.
That would have been funny if it was
That would have been
the same person.
okay.
So he was one of my top matches. And,
Hmm.
and I found out that I had Italian heritage. And then I got connected to more of these Italian family members. So I sent everybody a message and I said, because I knew it was from my dad's side, my biological father's side. I said, do you know this guy named Bob? And nobody knew who he was. And Dino sent me a message and he said, do you think it's possible that you were conceived through artificial insemination? I was like, I don't think so, but
Yeah, probably not.
and it didn't even cross my mind as I was, you know, searching and searching and searching for 2 years that maybe the guy we thought was my father wasn't my father. And then when I did finally get the match with my father, with my biological father, um, I called Dino and I said, "Hey, I found my biological father. This is his name." And he said, "I know exactly who your father is.
Wow.
His mom was my sister." And so
So he was a
what
pretty high match.
he was,
Yeah.
so he's my great uncle.
Okay.
Right? So he's my
Yes.
grandmother's
Yes.
brother. Yeah.
He's your granduncle. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And so his father, my great grandfather, was born in Italy.
Gotcha.
So he had gone all the way back to Italy, found the village that he was born in, found
Oh,
the
I love
house
that.
he was born in. So in 2022, we were in Italy and Dino airdropped the location of his father's, my great grandfather's home that he was born in. And my husband and I drove there. We were in Sicily
Oh, I
and
love
drove
it.
there and went to this house and walked to the steps of the church that he was baptized at. And
Yes.
every single person in that town, their last name was the same as my great
Really?
grandfather's last
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
And it was just
Yeah.
crazy. Like it was just, and I read something somewhere recently, an adoptee saying that when they found their biological parent, it made them feel real for the first time.
Yes. Yes. It's the Velveteen Rabbit.
Yes.
Yes.
And I
Yep.
was like, oh my gosh, I relate to that.
I do
I
too.
actually exist. I'm a person,
Yeah.
like it's okay that I'm here
Who
on
was
this
it in the
earth.
film that said to you when they said that said to you, do you feel like an alien?
That
Who
was my
said that?
cousin,
Yes.
Gabriel.
That absolutely. I was like, yes,
Yeah.
I feel like an alien. I don't feel connected to the earth. I
Yes.
feel like I materialized and I'm just kind of
Yeah.
floating. It wasn't until I started doing this work and until I actually went to these places that I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, like very much like you when you were into
It's in Manitoba. It's the Opaskwayak Cree Nation.
yes, when you went
Yeah.
there and you just felt like I could tell you were a piece there.
Oh,
And I feel the same way about Yorkshire.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt that
Um,
way about Sicily. Like
and
when we
about mhm.
landed in Sicily, I was just like, oh my gosh, I belong here. I don't know what it was, but you know what was even more interesting is everywhere we went in Italy, people thought that they knew I was Italian, they knew I was Sicilian,
Mhm.
and they would say to my husband, "Oh, she's a Sicilian, like watch out, she's got a temper, I'm sure." And he's like, "How do you know?"
That's funny. That's
So it
funny.
was good, yeah.
Yeah. Towards the end of the film is I don't want to give too much away, but you finally met with your actual biological father, and it was
Yeah.
such a beautiful scene. He seems
Yes.
amazing.
He is one of the most precious human beings I've ever met in my entire life.
I love that.
What you saw of him is exactly who he is. I have never seen anything different than that person.
Oh,
Every time, if I were to call him up on the phone right now, he would say, "Hello, my beautiful daughter," you know,
oh,
and he's never the thing. And if you are a birth parent listening to this, I will say this. The thing that I have appreciated about him the most is he expects nothing of me. Nothing. He only wants to love me
mm,
in whatever way I feel most comfortable with,
love
at
that.
whatever, you know, whatever it works for me. Has been so unselfish
Mhm.
in our yeah, he has been so selfless in our relationship,
Yeah.
and he has this real sensitivity to know that I have been through something, and he validates it. And, you hear in the film, he says, "I honor your tears." Like
Yes.
who says
Who says
that?
that? Exactly. So true.
It was, yeah, like he is so
Oh,
precious. So and then his father, my grandfather, lives an hour away, and we went and met him. It didn't make it into the
is
film.
this the one that's on TikTok? The video that's on
Yes.
TikTok? Okay.
Yes.
I was about to tell the listeners to go watch your TikToks because that scene
Oh,
is divine.
yeah.
He is so delightful.
Isn't he? Yes,
Yes.
yes. And he's the same way. Like they both are really cut from the same cloth. They're
Mm-hmm.
just so loving and so lovely. It was great. Actually, this weekend I did a in-person screening down in my hometown,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm.
I invited him to come, and he's a wonderful musician.
Yeah.
He busks actually.
I
Like
love it.
he's a busker. And so was my grandfather.
Oh,
So and my grandmother too actually was a musician and a singer as well. And I was the only one in my adoptive family with any kind of musical talent. So
hey.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, I
Yeah.
love that. And so I invited him. I said, "Would you be," because he hadn't seen the film yet.
Mm.
And I said, "Would you be interested in coming down and just playing for the guests as they entered the room?"
Oh,
So he played for like, 45 minutes prior to the showing, and nobody knew who he was. And then you could see everybody start to make the connection when, at the last scene where we finally
yeah.
meet for the very first time. And it was just the way the whole evening unfolded was really, really special. He loved the film. He just said, "I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Look at this journey we're on. Isn't this incredible?"
Mm-hmm.
So, and then he played for another hour after, and I could just listen to him
Oh,
all day
yeah.
long. He's
Yeah.
just so, so talented.
Oh, that's so great. So
Yeah.
great. So the film now is, are you taking it to festivals and doing private screenings?
Yeah, I'm doing private screenings right now. And then I've submitted to a number of festivals. I've had 15 rejections so far, maybe 16 rejections.
Okay. Really?
But
See, I don't know if that's a lot, but yeah, okay.
it's,
It's a standard,
yeah,
probably. Yeah.
it's normal. It's normal. And I never felt really connected to the outcome of the film. I knew I just had to make it. And I
Yep.
knew that the people that saw it would be the people that needed to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but we were in the Okanagan Screen Awards, the Okanagans where I live in Kelowna. and we won best editor or best editing.
Right.
We won third for best feature documentary. And then we won Best Canadian Documentary for the Vancouver International Movie Awards.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So it's so exciting. You make this thing and you think, oh my gosh, are people gonna hate it? Are they gonna hate me? And they, I mean, maybe some people do, and that's fine. It's not for everybody.
It's not your business.
Yeah. But yeah, so at the end of the month, we're actually going to the Dream Speakers International Indigenous Film Festival. It's in Edmonton, Alberta.
Okay.
It will be our Canadian premiere. It is the first Indigenous film festival to ever start in Canada. So it is a true honor to be recognized by them. And, just because you get into a film festival doesn't mean they show your film in person, So
really?
Yeah, like, because they'll show a few films, like a few of the selected films, on a weekend or whatever it is that their film festival runs. And then the rest of the films, they usually just show them online. So we were invited to go, and I've got a nice little like peachy colored satin
you do
suit that I'm going to wear, and I'm really excited.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
And is the goal to have it streaming somewhere at some point?
Totally. Yeah.
I hope so. I really want people to see this.
Yes. The goal is to have a streaming service pick it up and show it. I mean, have you seen some of the crap that gets put out there on?
I have.
I'm sorry. No offense to, I mean,
no offense to the crap.
Maybe cut that out. I don't know. That is not nice.
I'm cutting it out. Okay, Crystal Park. The film is Because She's Adopted. Thank you so much for talking to me and for letting me watch it. I feel changed because of it. How can people get in touch with you or find you or whatever? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I do have a website. My husband just made it for me.
Nice.
Such a nice guy. It's crystalparke.net. So KRISTALPARKE.net. And then you can follow me on all of the socials, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Because She's Adopted.
Yes.
Because She's Adopted. Yeah.
Yes. And I highly recommend TikTok because that's how I found you.
Yeah.
Very happy to have you in my community. We will definitely keep in touch because I feel like I have a new kindred spirit in you.
Yes. Yeah. I feel the same way, Jules. Thank you so much. And it was really a pleasure to be a part of this.
All right. Thank you so much, Crystal Parke. I will keep you guys updated as to when and if we can view that documentary. I have already viewed it because I'm important. Anyway, so we are out of here. Betsy Haddon, thank you so much for doing this with me. Thank you for having me at your lovely abode here in Palm Springs. That shall we tell people that you aren't going to be in Palm Springs much longer?
I don't think anybody cares.
All right. Well, Betsy moved to Palm Springs less than a year ago, and she is moving back to Walla Walla. That's all you need to know. And we love Walla Walla. We love Palm Springs too.
Well, like I told you, it's only a 2-hour drive to see me in Palm Springs, and now it'll be a 2-hour flight.
Exactly.
Easy peasy.
Exactly. Anyway, thank you for answering my questions. I hope I didn't make you uncomfortable.
No, not at all. But I don't think I was that exciting. So sorry for the boredom.
You don't have to. You know what? We just like to hear humans talk to each other here at Cutoff Jeans.
There you go.
All right. Okay, guys. You can find anything Julie Dixon Jackson at cutoffjeans.com. You can also, I actually own juliedixonjackson.com. So if you type in juliedixonjackson.com, you will get to the cutoffjeans.com. Yay, pretty exciting. Anyway, if you have a case that you need help with, please feel free to reach out to me. If you'd like to be on the show, reach out to me. If you would like to abuse me, don't reach out to me. And as always, the truth is in your jeans. Bye.